give you a little background history. I have an MBA in finance, and then before I retired 16 years ago, I went to school to become a certified financial planner. I passed the national boards in 2001. I have never actually worked as a financial planner. I did it just to be sure I knew what I was doing before I walked away from the day job. I had some real problems with the retirement part of the financial planning program. Those guys just don't have a clue. They still don't have much of a clue. I went out and retired anyway, and I had to learn basically all kinds of techniques to grow my IRA, to withdraw from my IRA, to manage my rental property, to maximize my income and minimize my hassle, etc., understand all the numbers. And I've become passionate about retirement planning as a result. I can also talk about pensions, annuities, Social Security, all that stuff. But we're not going to do that in this course. We're going to do that privately, one-on-one, if it's applicable to you, because only a certain amount of people are ready to take Social Security, and a certain amount of people have a defined benefit pension plan. So we're going to focus on one day on stocks and one day on real estate. And what I really wanted to call this thing was financial literacy, because that's what it is. It's having gone through an MBA program and a CFP program, I did not learn anything that's in this course. I mean, just don't learn anything practical. So I was going to call it financial literacy, but I didn't know how to spell it. So I called it passive income to keep it simple. How's that? Does that work? You mean I screwed that up too? Darn. All right. So next slide. So I came up with what I call a passive income house. Is the pointer part of that thing working? It was last time. The pointer's working. All right. So just by way of background, we're going to spend a few minutes on this. Then I think I'm going to have my friends come up, and we're just going to talk and play this by ear. So the traditional retirement is what's called a three-legged stool. You have Social Security, you have IRAs, 401ks type of thing, and maybe you have a pension, a defined benefit pension, although they're going by the wayside. Because we're real estate investors, we have this fourth leg that you do not learn about in Certified Financial Planner School, by the way. Not one word about real estate. And that, of course, is your real estate. So rather than make a four-legged stool, I drew it up as a house. And it's significant that on the roof of the house on the right side here is what I call must expenses. That would be your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, medical, food, clothes, a little bit of entertainment, car expenses. And on the left side of the roof is what I call discretionary expenses, which you have to sit down with your spouse or significant other and figure out what are those expenses in our life, especially if we quit the day job and now have more time. Spending may actually go up during the first phase of retirement. The general rule is 80%, but that is just a general rule. So if you're making $100K a year, financial planner will tell you need about 80 to retire on, but that is so highly individual that it's crazy. Okay? Now you have time to join a country club. You have time to travel. You have time to buy a sports car and enjoy it, or an RV. So anything, it's very important that you sit down with whoever you're going to retire with and discuss your budget and what do you want to do and what is must and what is discretionary. Because the discretionary go down over time, unfortunately. I have what I call the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go phase of retirement. And age is going to take away the sports car and the country club and the big house, etc., etc. And that offsets a lot of the inflation that takes place on the other side with your must expenses. None of this has been programmed into the average retirement plan if you go pay big bucks for a financial plan. Okay? And then your real estate does many, many things for you. Number one, your rents go up. Number two, the value goes up. Number three, your loan goes down. And number four, at some point in time, your loan is paid off and you get a big stair step in your passive income. You have to account for that correctly. You have to know what your cash flow is, first of all, because you do not learn that from your tax person, right? All they want to know is how much interest did you pay. They don't ask you what your actual, whether they have loan amortization, they put depreciation on there, they complicate your actual cash flow. You have to make several adjustments to your tax return to find out what your cash flow actually is. And you can't walk away from your day job. I use retire, walk away from your day job kind of simultaneously. You can't do that for 20 or 30 years based on a one-year budget. So I've developed a spreadsheet, which if you take the time to fill out, and I help you with it, we actually spreadsheet everything for 20, 30 years. because many, many changes are going to happen. Your personal home might be paid off, your rentals might be paid off, you might add rentals, you might get into the flipping business. At 55, depending on how you do it, you can actually withdraw from an IRA with no penalty. At 59 and a half for sure. At 62, you can take Social Security. At 62, you can take a reverse mortgage. At 65, you get your Medicare kicking in. And at 70, you have to make a required minimum distribution out of your traditional IRA. So there's no way you can do the stuff on the back of an envelope. It's worth spending a little time planning. I walk you all through all that and show you how to do that. So there's a budgeting part that goes along with the must expenses. We talk about taxes, analyzing investments, financial planning in general. We emphasize stocks, which aren't even shown here, because that's basically how you're going to grow your IRAs, by investing in stocks. Then we talk about techniques to withdraw from your IRA. We talk about William T. Benjamin, how it used to be 4 to 5, it used to be 8%, and he came along and changed it to 4 to 5%. That was in 1994. Put the whole retirement planning industry on its ear. And with all due respect to William T. Benjamin, if you own real estate, you can do a lot better than that. And we discuss all these things. So that's kind of a big overview of the passive income house and some of the things we discuss. What I think I'd like to do now, I have some people that took the course who have said they'd come up here and we'll just have some kind of a discussion, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what they got out of it, et cetera, et cetera. So guys, you want to come on up? Guys, I use the term loosely. And his wife Marie is a mortgage broker. So these people know what they're doing, and yet somehow they found benefit in the course 5 times. Christine, next to them, she actually read my book, Two-Timer. And she read, pardon? Yes, she read my book on student housing, dormitory dollars from cover to cover. I think has it memorized. You never sat down with me and went over the notes, though. Linda, what can I say about Linda? You've only taken it once, right? Twice? Okay. I've got a good memory, but it's short. Steve Jordan, ex-president of GREIA, a guy who's done just about everything from hundreds of flips to buy an old portfolio to private money lending to I don't know what, took the course, and hopefully he's going to say a few kind words. Jamie, chilling and grilling with Jamie, just took it once, and Mark Pauly recently took it, and I think we're still working on some items with Mark. We're working on items with all these people. Look, if you put the effort into the course and attempt a spreadsheet and put together your stock portfolio and whatever, I will work with you, I mean, basically no limit, right? If you don't do this stuff, I am going to cut it off this time. The course goes for like 3 months, and I'm going to give you maybe even 1 month after that. And if you haven't come to me within 4 months and said, Steve, I got some stuff here for you to look at, I might give you a little hard time because I've got to know what I've got hanging over my head, all right? So that's what we're going to do. Tell us what you got out of the course, what you like, what you didn't like, or what, okay.
So yeah, my wife and I, we've been investing for a number of years. We were using your typical financial planners and these types of things, and it just never sat right with me personally. It always seemed like there was hidden numbers out there. I didn't know what they were, and there's no way to find them, and all this stuff. So I came across GREIA, met Steve, went to this course, and the light bulb went off on what was going on with these guys. And so we, after going through the course 3 times, I think it was, because I'm from Indiana and we're not so smart up there. But we, completely, pretty much 100% changed our portfolio, the way we were investing, what we were investing in. We got rid of our financial planners altogether, don't need them at all, and we're doing much better on our own than we were with those guys. So that's just my 2 cents. I'll let Marie.
You were paying like 2%, as I recall, or close to 2%?
And which one? Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, just fees, what you pay in fees and stuff. One of the things I learned and doing a little research, if you're paying, some of these guys are charging 2-3% in fees. If you're paying 3% in fees for 22 years, I believe it is, you're losing half your money in fees. Half. When you start getting, I don't know what a lot is to anybody in here, but you start talking about $100,000 or $1 million or $3 million or $5 million, you're losing half that money and giving it away. And you work your whole life for that, and they're taking it away from you. So anyways, Steve opened my eyes to that, and I've done a lot of research on that, and again, we've just changed our whole process, but I'll pass it on down the line.
I'll say that the information that we obtained from this guy right here he took the scary out of managing investments. I mean, he really did, to help us understand how it works, what it looks like. We worked on a personal budget. You can actually kind of map out, what is my life going to look like and when can I retire? My first question was, I just want to know I can. You know? But it's just really amazing to say it's possible. And I actually can kind of control what that's going to look like in a way. So we've completely changed what we did. We've changed our outlook. We're braver. We've invested in some real estate. We're looking forward to some, you know, being able to quit that day job someday. You know, I just can't promote this class more. That it's well, every time I try to tell somebody about it, I'm like, you have got to come because he might not do it again. And nobody teaches this to you. You know, we brought our nephew to the class last time. He goes, I never learned this in college. And it's like, no, you won't. But anyway, this is an opportunity, and it's one well worth taking, in my opinion.
I want to leave and let you guys.
It's like toasting Steve here. No, but ditto what these guys said. Been friends with Marie and Rodney kept saying, you gotta take this course, you gotta take this course, and he really kept on me, and I'm so glad that he did, because I've always had a desire to do real estate investing, but really never knew how to get started in it, and was always, I guess, just being financially responsible and conservative in that area, was always conscious that I didn't want to get it out over my tips, because I've heard so many people who decide to get into real estate investing and then just have a horrible experience with it. So with Steve's class, you get the 1-2 punch, and what I really liked is, from a financial standpoint, he really helped me get my finances even more in a row, and just in his recommendations and education, he significantly helped me grow my portfolio. And so from that, I'm now in a position where I'm able to comfortably look into real estate investing. So I'm a little behind these guys, and I've been doing more of the research now on this end. But I'm very grateful for what Steve taught, and he's also the fact that he takes so much time. I just, you know, I mean, that's consistent with GREIA. But the one thing that Marie said too about taking the scary out of it, it's when we just went through all of the recent stock market volatility. In the past, I would have really worried about it. I would have, you know, thought, oh, I've got to lower, you know, my investment. I have to change the asset allocation. And now I didn't even think about it. I mean, he's just completely, you know, taught how the stock market works, what to do in these different situations, and, you know, how to position yourself to not have to worry about it. And so he saved me a lot of sleepless nights. So thank you.
So I'm Linda, and I had a requirement. I had to request that my husband take the class with me, because we've been married just 7 years, and we would always kind of just go yeah at each other, because my husband's like, we have enough money, we've been saving. I saved since I was 18, and so I had been investing for a long time, and he's like, what are we gonna do with all this? And I'm like, well, maybe something will happen. What about this and what about that? So I couldn't really enjoy myself. And then I had a chunk of change set out for real estate investing before I took the class. And I said to my husband, if I'm taking it, you're taking it. And he took it. We finally understood. He had like 4 pensions we didn't really understand. We got them all figured out. We reworked life insurance. We went back to my financial advisor, where you pay a fee, but he opened up a whole separate account that's no fee. I went to my 3 advisors and sat down on a table with 2 pages of all of our finances. We had a 2.5-hour meeting, and I said, was this helpful? And he said, they all said, you're the only client that's ever been so knowledgeable of like, you're not just giving us a viewpoint into the equity stuff that we're managing for you, but you're giving us the whole financial picture of your family, you know? So the net result was in January, we went to New Zealand for 3 weeks and we spent money like a drunken sailor on short-term leave. And I felt awesome. I was like, I said to my husband, he goes, we're going on another cruise. We went on 4 cruises in 3 weeks in New Zealand. But it was like we just made memories and I just didn't have to worry. So total freedom. And that's why I took the class again, because staying in the language and the talking and hearing of it, it's that valuable. So when you look at the price tag of it, don't let it deceive you to say, oh, that might not be worth it. You're going to get much more than that, because all of us have experienced that we've gotten many, many fold over it. And I will say one last thing on Steve. Truly, the class is one thing, but the fact that he meets with you as needed on one-on-one time, that's priceless, absolutely priceless.
I'm Steve Jordan, and I'm kind of the oddball in the crowd, because when I took the course about 2 years ago, I think, I'd already been retired for 20-some years. I'm already drawing Social Security, and so it gave me the opportunity to do kind of a backward look, a historical look on what mistakes I made, what I should have done differently, and what I can do differently in the future. The other thing I want to say before I delve more into that is I've probably spent $50,000 on real estate education over the 40 years I've been doing this. I've been to every guru, Ron LeGrand, Robert Allen, Warren Harding, John Schaub, Pete Fortunato, you name them, I've been to all of their classes. And their classes are great. They teach you how to buy, how to construct deals, etc. But nobody, other than Steve, tells you how to manage that portfolio and maximize it for your personal advantage. Because all they're interested in is teaching you how to buy and hold, manage, flip properties, etc. So Steve's course comes to you from a totally different perspective and a totally different focus relative to real estate investment and well beyond real estate investment. I can tell you one of the things that I did was I had to totally redo my IRA portfolio after the class, because when I looked at it I said, dummy. But I probably would have not paid attention had I not taken Steve's class. So it gives you a totally different perspective. For example, all the properties I bought, what did I look for? I looked for, what's my cash flow going to be? Is it going to appreciate well? And never looked at mortgage pay down, the effective depreciation on that cash flow. Opened my eyes to things that even though I've been doing this for over 40 years, I just never thought about it. And so it gives you a totally different perspective on how to look at your investments and how to maximize them for your own benefit.
Yeah, I'm pretty new, but I was a finance major and got out of college and worked for Morgan Stanley. So, but I found Steve's course. It's a whole, you know, the Morgan Stanleys and all the brokerage houses. They're not going to teach you how to manage the portfolio from a different perspective. You know, that they probably don't want you to know, because then you're not going to pay them the 2%, right? So yeah, and this guy is you know, volunteering his time, and it's worth it. You know, it may seem like $400 and something that I'm you know. Yeah, trust me, or to me, it was worth it, as well as just one last thing, it brought to light that you don't need a whole heck of a lot, that you think, I need a portfolio of 10, 20, 30, whatever, that, you know, if you live within, you know, within your means and you manage properly, then things will be okay. So anyway.
I know when that point is. Yeah, okay, one, that's good. Steve's spreadsheet. I mean, it seems like a lot of work to plug in all your income, all your expenses, and take it out 25, 30 years. I mean, he's got me living to 95 years old, God bless him. But I know where I'll be financially every year along the way, based on what we've got now, based on what we talked about doing. So you used the term earlier, financial literacy. I mean,
Yeah, but I can't spell it.
yeah, I know. I know enough to know that I didn't have any of that. With a lot of years of real estate investing, a lot of years of seminars that Steve taught to, but Steve has a way of just simplifying things. Complex topics, but simplifying them. And you'll find that he's extremely sharp. I mean, anybody that appreciates learning from a master is going to appreciate Steve. You take what, and you know, I got to say, he's got a heart to serve. I mean, he just wants you to be successful. He challenged me on things. I thought, well, yeah, of course I need 20 houses to be able to live, and he's proof that I don't, which seems like a whole lot less work to me to not have to have 20 houses to deal with. I thought it was pretty smart having stuff in a self-directed IRA, some real estate properties. Not that smart. A couple of them maybe, but I just sold one recently, and I'll make a lot more money with the cash from that than I've made for the next 20 years of my life keeping it in a self-directed IRA. I mean, who thinks of these things? And this course, it just osmosis of just being there. You're going to pick up on some things, and you're going to dive into other things. You're going to, you know, I'm slow. I need to take it again, way over my head. But I know the resources there to get back and to keep going to a different level. And so for a guy that's not had a job for a year and a guy that didn't have that much in resources, I'm living pretty comfortably right now, and I have a plan. And you know, it just came along. So that was a wonderful investment in GREIA that I made, and then you know, having the common sense, I guess, the good fortune to run into Steve's course. So, highly recommend it.
Hey guys, thank you. I
Steve,
mean,
why don't you take questions from the crowd?
sure, yeah.
And I have a question. You guys up there who's taking the course, just rattle off how many years it took off before you feel you could be financially independent. Because that's after all what you were going there for, is you thought you were 10 years off, now you realize you're only 5 years off, based on real estate and financial engineering. That's a tough question.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know if I had to throw it out. I'd say, before all this, I was thinking, you know, probably going out to 70 years old before I could retire. I'm hoping, well, I'm pretty confident I'll be out by 59.
I have hundreds on the other end.
That would be in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
To actually answer the question. But that's our goal, is hopefully in the next 10 years, we'll be able to enjoy what we reach.
For me, it took 7 years off. So, financial advisor, who I no longer have, thanks to Steve.
Is that Rich? What's his name, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I remember.
He was forecasting like 67, and it's 60 is very realistic.
I'm on tape and I still have my job, which I love, but Steve said I could retire, my husband could retire, so we just need to decide what we want to do with the time that we would have, so.
He's already.
Well, I don't know how to answer the question since I've been retired for 27 years.
Motivated Steve to go back to work.
So I'll just pass the mic.
Shame on me. I have not taken advantage, so I need to do the work. So,
You do the spreadsheet.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I was hoping that I would be able to really pack it in 10 years. When you're 60 and you can't get hired and you've only got a little bit of resources, but you've got some rentals and some stuff like that, and self-directed IRA. You know, Steve's, I mean, I'm 2 years away at that, and I'm just kind of doing some buy and holds right now and picking up a few gig jobs just because it's kind of fun. Keeps me working. But so from 10 years down to, you know, call it a year to 2 years, I'm very comfortable that I'll be able to live comfortably the rest of my life. Now I want to make a lot more money because I want to go on cruises like Linda does. But as far as retirement goes, took probably 8 years off.
It's amazing.
To hear those numbers, I'd have to review everybody's spreadsheets and whatever. But I'm humbled. Thank you guys very much. So my slides are kind of worthless. So what do we cover? What do we try to teach you? I think the things on this flyer here are more to the point than what I've got up there. Again, I retired 16 years ago on a $479 a month pension. I was 7 years too young to take even the 75% reduced Social Security. I had to figure out how to use my IRA withdrawals and my rental property to live, and made some amazing discoveries along the way. I would love to go back to Certified Financial Planner course and tell them what I've learned so they could teach retirement planning correctly. But anyway, so some of the goals of the course, I mean, you've heard most. It's going to depend what you put into it. Whether you want to focus on your stocks or your real estate, or your budget planning, or whatever. We try to get into everything. There's only 60,000 certified financial planners out of 350 million people, and most of them are making big bucks. I brought one of my friends into Georgia REIA Dealmakers to speak, and first thing he said is, "I have $700 million assets under management." That's roughly at least 0.75% of $700 million. You do the math, okay? I'm not making any money. I don't need to make any money. I'm trying to give back to you guys. I'm trying to stop people from making mistakes. I see so many mistakes, it's ridiculous. It comes from two sources, fear and greed. I try to get you over the fear part, and I try to get you over the greed part. I don't always succeed, but most of the time I do, or at least tone you down a little bit. Any questions for me or the group, or question where? What?
There was a question, something.
Question, yes.
Was everybody a Georgia REIA member before they attended it? Does everybody have Georgia REIA in common, or had some people done personal investments like stocks and things before meeting Steve, and then kind of went into the real estate arena afterwards, or had everybody already had a portfolio?
So your question is, how many owned real estate before they started?
Probably a good,
I don't know.
Before Georgia REIA, none. Once I came into Georgia REIA, it took me a year and a half to find my first property, thanks to Kurt. He guided me, and we're up to 3 now, looking to buy several more very, very soon. So.
For me, Steve's class brought me into Georgia REIA, and it's his class, and then also I took the buy and hold boot camp that Kurt does, and have met with Kurt, and so now I'm really in the investigating stages for buying the real estate.
Yep, you haven't bought a rental yet, right? But we totally revamped your stock portfolio.
Yeah, I started investing in real estate in 1975, and I've been a landlord continuously since then. After I retired from my corporate job, I flipped 100 houses over a 10-year period, and I was also a hard money lender. But to answer your question, I was a Georgia REIA member all of that time. I'm sorry, not when I started in 75, because Georgia REIA didn't exist until 86.
So he founded it.
So for the first 10 years, I was on my own.
Yeah, it was actually Steve Kurt's guidance to help segue from the duplexes over to the single-family home. Because one thing you'll learn is think about appreciation. Appreciation is a good thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I owned real estate for a lot of years before I found Georgia REIA, but I've just greatly accelerated my acquisition and buy and hold rate since then. Been a member less than a year.
Georgia REIA or the course, or Lisa?
Do you recommend couples come together to your?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to have to sit down and do your budget. You're going to have to decide what's discretionary and what isn't, and what level you want to live at after you retire. And I tell the story, and this is from me who tried to plan these things. I retired, and we went out to dinner to celebrate with some friends, and I unveiled my plans the first time my wife had heard my plans. And I said, we're going to sell a house, and we're going to live, or maybe even keep the house, but we're going to go live in really cool cities and just rent for like 6 months. We're going to see where the World Cup is, or the Super Bowl, and we'll go to some really cool city, and we're going to rent for 6 months and really travel that part of the world. And she looked up from her dinner and she said, what am I going to do with my dishes? That's when I knew we were on a different wavelength. Turns out she has a room in our basement. I kid you not. This is probably a small room, 10 by 15 room. She has, you got to have your Easter dishes and your Halloween dishes and your Thanksgiving dishes and your good china and your semi-good china and your beach dishes and your, oh my gosh. I'm like, seriously. So this is why I say, you guys have to sit down and work a few things out, right? So no, I absolutely recommend as couples. There's a discount for couples. I don't know what we settled on. Yeah, well, that's one reason I cut it down from the 2 weekends, even though we skipped like 1 week in between. I mean, it was overload. It was too much. First time I asked Steve to comment on it, he said it was overwhelming. That really sobered me up right there. So that's why I'm now doing 1 weekend, and then we're going to wait a month, and I'm going to push you guys to do your spreadsheets and get started, and then we're going to have a 2-hour evening meeting, and we're going to have another 2-hour evening meeting a month later. And any time along there, you can start the one-on-one. It just depends when you're ready, right? And then what I did with the first group, and I think the second and some of the third, is we actually had monthly passive income meetings, and we had like 18 of those before I finally kind of ran out of things to say or whatever, and we stopped. But I'm thinking about we could maybe continue that with some of the newer groups and have monthly meetings. What's your issues? What are you buying? Anybody read any good books? What's the stock market doing? That kind of thing. And so I absolutely recommend couples. Yes.
Several of these people have taken the course over and over. So
No.
was it the same price to take it over and over, or is it like a
That was a discount. I don't remember how much it was, or whatever. The last time I think Rodney attended for free because he unveiled. You're going to do that tonight? You're going to show you a TAR calculator? Rodney came up with this calculator. You guys get all confused over these numbers. Everybody does. NOI, cap rate, yada, yada, yada. And Rodney came up with a neat little calculator that we made available to the group. And he's contributed. So he was like an assistant the last time, and I don't even think we charged him. I don't know. I leave that stuff to Georgia GREIA.
There's another question.
Another question? What?
I've only been once
Once to what?
to the class. Other people.
Yeah. Steve's only been once, but he went home and took some action on it.
Steve, there was somebody else that had a question behind there. Does somebody still have their hand up?
Somebody still have a question? While Rodney's setting up the TAR master account?
Asset protection, like how to set up trust and so forth?
No, I've got a guy that I can highly recommend. I have when I went through the Certified Financial Planner program, this guy taught taxation, estate planning. I think there was a third topic too, but anyway, he has a master's in taxation. He's a CFP, he's a CPA, and he's a JD. He's an attorney, so he's got more initials after his name, and he specializes. He calls himself a state counselor. So I would recommend him. There are other people associated with Georgia GREIA.
I can talk to you about, and then direct you to a particular attorney, so I can talk to you about
Right.
what I do, what I've done, and so.
Yeah,
Georgia-
same here. I just don't want to go there. I'm not an attorney. I don't pretend to be an attorney. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night.
Protection of assets, LLCs, trusts, so on.
Okay, so what I teach in the course, analyzing a buy and hold is completely different than analyzing a flip, right? And what I stress is what I call the total annual anticipated return, the TAR. There's 3 ways to make money in real estate. If we use the ideal model, real estate's the ideal investment. The I is income on a monthly basis, in other words, cash flow. The E is equity through loan amortization that nobody even pays attention to, and I built my whole strategy around. And the A is appreciation. The D is depreciation, doesn't make you any money. And the L is leverage. Doesn't make you any money per se, unless you take all that money and leverage it, then it makes you a ton of money. It is the key to real estate. So Rodney came up with a TAR calculator where you plug your numbers in and you can get all those numbers like instantly. And then my little thing that I push is to do real estate while you have your day job. So you don't need the cash flow. Take the cash flow and pay off the loans early. And he shows a curve of how fast the loan will pay off versus your normal loan. A 7 cap property will pay for itself in about 15 years, a 10 cap in about 10 years, and a 13 cap in about 6 or 7 years. And so that's what I recommend. You get 5 or 6 properties, you leverage them as much as you can initially, so you have the money to buy the 5 or 6 properties and you have leftover money to do something else with. But then you have your day job, you take that cash flow, you pay off those loans, and they'll be free and clear in 8 to 10 years. And if they're 10 cap properties, let's just say you bought 6 $160,000 homes, so you have $1 million. If they're 10 cap properties, how much cash flow are you going to have? 100,000. By definition, 100,000. That's what a 10 cap property is. That's inflation adjusted multi-generational income. So that's 6 houses. So get that, focus on that, don't mess with that. Then if you want to go buy some more houses or do private money lending or do tax liens or discounted notes or whatever, that's fine. But don't mess with that core. Get that core going and stick to it and get them paid off. That's my philosophy. And I just sent out a calculation today. Even if you buy a really low cap rate property, a 7 cap rate property, and you put all that cash flow back on a 5% loan, 5.5%, so you're not earning a whole lot of money on it, and you're losing all that leverage, you're losing more and more and more every month, you still have a compound annual growth rate of about 15-16% on your money after taxes, which is amazing. I would never tell you to do an investment that's worse than the stock market, all right? So, Rodney.
Go ahead, you can.
No, you can do it.
Trump Bank, maybe?
There we go,
So not to bore everybody, but with too much detail on this, but one of the things that Steve goes through is how to actually mathematically analyze a property, and it gets, for me, I'm like a programmer, so I have to see things logically. It's got to go step by step for me. He's more of a paragraph guy. When train A left station B and all that. But anyways, so going through his class. Going through his class, it wasn't clicking. I just wasn't getting it. I was very confused. So I sat down and just started trying to get an Excel spreadsheet so I could kind of see what he was talking about, and I ended up with this. And it's actually pretty cool if I do say so myself. But most people will stop. You'll hear a lot about this number right here, the cap rate. Cap rate, as you'll find on Steve's class, it's a very informational number, and everybody in the industry uses it. I'm a licensed real estate agent. Everybody talks cap rate, cap rate, cap rate. But when you start mathematically calculating it out, it really doesn't tell you a whole lot. It's very more informational. I would never base a purchase based on a cap rate, which everybody buys on cap rate. It affects more commercial property than it does for single-family resident rentals. So when you end up with a cap rate based on all these numbers, again, I'm just going to kind of skip over some stuff, but some of the things that Steve was talking about, if you notice, he was talking about a 15-year cap rate, or 15 cap rate paying off in 7 years. This is 13-year cap rate. This is years to pay off would be 8. So he's right on the money. Now what this means is basically you're taking all of your profits from your income and rolling it back onto the loan. This is a 30-year loan, wherever it is. I'm at an angle here, right there. 30-year loan at 6.5%, basically 6.5%, 20% down. Total cash invested, monthly payment, PITI. You get all the way through these numbers. They calculate off of one another, and you end up with what he calls the TAR. That's when I look at a property. That's what I look at. What's the actual return that we're going to get? And for me personally, after going through Steve's class, because it's broken up into 2 segments, right? You've got the stock market part, which everybody rolls their eyeballs about that. That's probably the best part of the class for me ever, because it's like Steve brought up in the class. One day, Steve Jordan hadn't been there yet, but you know, one day you're going to have 10 properties and you're going to retire and I don't want these anymore, and you sell them, you make $1 million, and when you sell 10 properties, what are you going to do with that money?
Cruises?
You gonna just keep it in your wallet? I mean, you know, and if you retire at 65 and sell all your properties, you got 30 years to live. So you got to know what to do with that money. You put it in the stock market. So for me, what you'll learn through Steve's classes is pretty easy in the stock market, very easy actually, to get 11% return over time. That's not a short-term thing, but it's a long-term thing. You get 11, 12% pretty easily every year by doing nothing. So when I'm buying real estate, I don't even look at properties unless I'm going to make 18, 20%. Why would I buy a property and go through all that heck, you know, toilets, tenants, and trash that you hear about for the same amount that I can get in the stock market? But it's things to think about, and these are the things that Steve brings up in this class, so I think it's important. So, but anyways, this calculator we do give out if you take his class, because you won't have a clue what you're looking at unless you take his class. And once you go through all this, we will send you a copy of it when you get out.
You go to the second page?
Yeah, sure. Which part?
Any questions on it?
Steve?
So you got,
You have a question?
yes?
Someone mentioned it was like overwhelming when they went the first time, and you spread it out and made it more palatable. Is there something you could read to learn the lingo to get where, as a brand new newbie, I wouldn't want to come and feel like I'm treading water.
Yeah, I try not to use too many initials. When I do, I try to say what they are, but then I also give you a list of all the initials and what they mean. And, you know, I expect questions, and I go over things several times, and we can always do one-on-one. But yeah, it's, you know, whenever you're trying to learn something new, I don't care whether it's chemistry, physics, math, real estate, it's terminology and abbreviations that can throw you for a loop. Once you know those. Pardon?
We did all 4 pillars.
You did all 4 pillars, you did a 4-day course.
Steve, Steve had a comment too.
You know, what the time you put in, and it's really true. Like, I mean, I spent a lot of time outside of the class really going through all the material and highlighting, writing it, putting together my own little, and you're going to have to do that if you really want it to sink in. Because he covers so much, and it's so rich and dense with information, but it'll go in and out. And
Listen, I consider this a college level course, and for those of you who've gone to college, you know that for every hour in lecture, you're supposed to spend like 3 hours studying, right? So what you put into it, you're going to
Know a lot, but a lot of what you know is wrong. It's it's what you've heard, it's what you've heard on the news. So it's sort of like just unwinding your brain to say, okay, let's look at this fresh perspective. But it definitely, he works with you, so it's not too overwhelming. But as a result, after taking the class, I can pick up pretty much any financial book, like Ken Fisher or anybody, read it, and I have no problems consuming it. Even though I had my MBA and I never liked those classes and those books, now I can pick it up like that because he gave me the knowledge to be able to do that.
Cool. I do recommend a couple. So what Rodney's got here, whoop, you went way past it. This is a 30-year loan on this place that started out at 65 or whatever it was. And this is what happens if you apply those extra payments to the loan. In this case, it's free and clear in 8 years. And at any time, you can kind of guess what your equity is. I have a table like this for all my property, a loan amortization table, and I add it across, and I know what my loan amortization is every year. It's changed a little bit, guys, but it was a little bit ago, it was $52,000 a year, more or less constant, which amazed me, for 20 years. Because I had $1 million worth of loans at the time, and they're going to be free and clear in that time period, and that's tax-free money. That's $1 million tax-free right there, just from loan amortization. I built my whole strategy on loan amortization. What else up there?
I guess we're going to go back here because I don't even know what we've got here.
We got time. Amazingly, we started late, and it's only 8:47, right? We still got 10 minutes, so I'm in no rush.
So what I did to show you how powerful real estate can be in retirement, we've got an investment here of, where is it here?
16 grand.
$16,000, right? So you're all in at 19,100 with all your repairs and whatnot. But if you compared that, now this isn't super clean, but if you're comparing the same amount of money in real estate as or if you put it into the stock market, the same amount of money for the same amount of time, I always wonder which one would be better. What do you think? Stock market or real estate? These are the things you got to know, right? So you go down here to this property versus stock market, calculates all this out. So your full in is 19,100. This is stock market. This is real estate investment for the same amount of years. At a 5% withdrawal, you're going to be getting $1,600 a year. Or I'm sorry, is that a month? Where are we at here? Yeah, annual. Versus $7,300 on one piece of property. Stock market versus, real estate.
And that's because of the leverage.
Leverage, exactly. So, yeah, but this is stuff that you get into, and I think something that we need to bring up here that Steve hasn't brought up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
At what level of, I guess, the investments would benefit the most from, like, if you're super newbie or if you're...
Yes. Yes. Yes.
At what point do you need a financial education?
Yeah.
Sooner the better.
Exactly. And if I knew now what 20, 30 years ago when I was a youngster, I mean, I can guarantee you I'd be retired right now. Guaranteed. I have no doubt in my mind I'll be retired in 10 years. And I'm just getting started. I mean, just going through his class, it just completely changed. And one of the things I went through when I started investing heavily in the stock market after his class and figured out, he helps you to find out which investments are going to be best for you, all that kind of stuff. Well, I started investing, and then the market started going down, 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 right? We just kind of went through this little glitch that we're in right now. I started getting excited. Every time it dropped, I was like going, yes, yes, yes. Because you understand, that's a buying opportunity. Everybody else is bailing, I'm getting in, and I pretty much popped all my money in at this point because it kept going down. And he teaches you why you do that mathematically, and then when it comes back up, you start withdrawing and take your profits, stuff like that. But if you can start this when you're 20, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but you don't have to make $150,000, $300,000, $450,000 a year as a CEO of a company. I'm convinced going through this because my wife and I play with this stuff. I'm very convinced. If you make $40,000, you could be retired by the time if you started at 20, making $40,000, you'd probably be retired with $1 million easily by the time you were 45 with $1 million. And that's doing nothing. So, and one of the things I'd like to bring up real quick that we don't, what?
We're just laughing at it.
Oh yeah, everybody laughs. Yeah. But, and here's why I believe that. And this is something we haven't talked about yet, but Steve is going to show you tools that are so cool, they're almost addicting. I mean, we play with these all the time. We're just, retirement calculators and all these things. Very, very simple. You just plug a couple numbers in, it'll tell you how long and how much money you'll have and all this different stuff. He shows you tools on how to compare one stock to another stock or one index to another index or one, it's amazing when you start playing with it how simple it is. And these guys, these CPAs and stuff are charging, or CFPs are charging you big money, to do this stuff. And it's fun, and you start realizing you can save a lot of money doing it yourself. And I like being in control of my stuff. So, as you can see, I had to do it differently than Steve, but I just can't say enough about the class. Obviously, I've taken it 5 times because I'm from Indiana.
I have a question. I help folks with buy and hold strategy. One of the problems with buy and hold is you need that down payment. A lot of new folks that come to Georgia GREIA, they have very little in savings. I believe that down payment, part of what that down payment will come from is by tuning your expenses. Folks up front, how did financial education help you tune your personal household budgets? What happened to your household budgets? These are all high rollers.
Okay. Well, through the spreadsheet that everyone's been alluding to, it really helps you focus on the must-haves that Steve was talking about, and then really the extras. And I had already been fairly conscientious about my spending because I had gone through a period of just real downturn at work. So I had it pretty tight already, but where I really learned was with the financial planner, money that I didn't need to be spending to what I thought was helping me grow my investment and was instead costing me money. So I was able to shave off pretty significant amount through taking on the financial planning myself, which you really don't have to do that much, and then through the asset allocation change with my 401k. So those changes alone significantly grew my portfolio. So it was more about making me more money in my situation than it was about shaving off expenses.
Property, and the closing, he said, well, you get 2 lots of this property, of this house. And there happened to be a kind of a driveway on it, I guess from my RV's park the last 2 months. You know, but that's $100 off of what I needed to make to break even that month, so.
There you go.